Not much. How's your week been?
So far, so good. Thanksgiving coming up, so it's been like a little hectic trying to figure out what family members are coming and who's not, and it's just been this whole year is just such a mess, dude. Especially the restricting, more restrictions in New Jersey. I'm not sure what California is doing, but I think after Thanksgiving we're probably gonna get screwed. But I hope not. I hope for the better. But how are you doing? All right?
Yeah, that's true, huh? Do you guys have more restrictions also?
Yeah, they shut. Well, I wouldn't say they shut down restaurants, but they're only allowing 10 people in a restaurant. Like, it's one table.
I have a feeling that you go to restaurants a lot. Every time we talk, you're like, these restaurants are not letting us in.
Yeah, because well, the movies was my thing. I loved going to the movies. I'm a passionate movie lover. So now we haven't gone to a movie in since January, probably was the last time I was in a movie theater. So now once going out to eat started to become open, we're like, fuck it, let's just do that at least once a week to get out of the house, twice a week, just to change up the monotony of every day. Because you know how it is, you're home most of the time too. It's you get a little stir crazy, right? Or is it just me? Or is it, do you feel the same way?
I was talking to one of my clients about this. He was surprised that I watch TV, and I was like, there's nothing else for me to do with my wife. We can't go out and do stuff.
I know.
We ended up watching TV together. Now we're becoming expert connoisseurs of TV, critiquing every show. And they're not even good shows out.
My girlfriend's like, fiance now. She's like, you watch way too much TV. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with my downtime to I don't have hobbies right now. There's not much to do. And now it's cold outside. I can't go outside and before I was riding my bike, I go to the park and shoot some basketball hoops, just even for a half hour, just to do something different. Now I can't because it's 30 degrees already. So that's all fucked. And, and now I'm going back in the gym, but that's 45 minutes of the day. It's not
I saw your picture, your before and after. That was great.
Yeah, it's coming along.
Really fast, actually.
Surprisingly, yeah. Especially that I'm not I think the chemicals are still in my bloodstream for 20 years. I'm probably still androgenic from all the shit I was on. My girlfriend, do you think that's possible? I'm like, who knows? I'm I probably do have some steroids in my bloodstream somewhere. Oh, yeah, so I know I feel good. I mean, listen, I am just happy to be in the gym, going through the motion and just training get my heart rate up for an hour. You know what I mean? It's not the same mindset and before when I would go in there and there was a task at hand, every set was executed to maximum, output. And I had to make sure I hit, different lifts at different numbers. And there was so much more emotion behind it. Now I'm all right, let me get the best workout impossible as fast as I can and get the fuck out of here, but it's different, but I like it. I'm happy to be back in there. I'm just going 3 times a week. That's, it's just Monday, Wednesday, Friday type of thing, just to keep my mind good.
I've tried to do how 50-year-olds do weightlifting. How they go through the motions with a 20-pound dumbbell or whatever, a shoulder press with a 20-pound dumbbell. That's what I do. But I try to do it a couple of times.
It's what I do too, though, honestly. I
really admire, though, your dedication because I went a couple of times. I don't know if it's something to do with the Corona lockdown also, but it makes it even harder to be consistent with that stuff.
Well, I feed off energy. I'm not I'm good at giving energy out too, but I also feed off it, especially in the gym scenario for me. So this gym I joined, mind you, I have a key to gyms here, but I don't go to them because I just don't like the atmosphere. So I joined this gym that I used to go to during my last prep. Okay. And that was in 2015. And I thought it would reinvent something inside me and get me excited because that was where I was with my last prep when I did my last bodybuilding show. But the problem is there's no one there. It's usually got 100 people in there at a time at all times of the day. And there's maybe 2 now. I went there this morning. There was 2 people the entire hour I was there. And I was like, this is just weird now. You know what I mean? It's not, the energy is just not you know, and the music's not like exciting. They have the spa closed. So like, you don't have all the traffic going in and out of the gym and like action. I feed off that stuff. I love that type of stuff. So like now I go in there, it's like me and this other dude. I'm just like, this is terrible.
Can I tell you the worst thing about energies in gyms after you lose all your muscle? I'm sure this hasn't happened to you yet, but it happened to me last year once. I was so.
Well, when people come up to you?
Yeah. Wait. Oh, that's happened to you?
Oh, it happens every day.
Hey, you know, if you move your arms a little bit this way, you'll get more pec development. I'm like, dude, do you know, like, I was close to deadlifting 700 pounds a year and a half ago. Like, good enough.
I thought you were talking about when they go, "What happened to you?"
No. I'm talking about people.
I get that all the time. They go, "What happened to all your muscle?"
Oh shit, that must be worse if you see the same people. No, I got that too, but you know what I always say? I always say I got sick. I just say I got sick.
Oh, they asked me, "Am I sick?"
Yes. Actually, Scott Mendelson asked me that when he first saw me. I was like, actually, I've been feeling ill because it's the best way to not.
It just deads the conversation, right?
Then they get you. They're
like, oh shit.
No, but honestly, the worst thing is when some like 180-pound guy comes up to you in the gym.
That's the worst. That's the fucking worst.
But it's your first day back and you're still weak or whatever. You're like, you don't need to give me advice. And they'll be like, you don't look like you know what you're doing because look at your body. You don't have any muscle. That's the worst. People are very they're too forward when it comes to that stuff. I'm like, dude, if I needed help, I will ask. Like, I'm good. I rarely would give people advice.
I would never go up to anybody. I don't go up to anybody. If they come up to me enough as it is when I was big, but like even now, if they see me working out, they're kind of like, hey, what's that do? And I'm like, oh God, here we go. I'm like, I like being smaller though, because it doesn't happen nearly as much though. Before when I was, Juice City, it was forget about it. Every guy was like, does this work good? Am I going to look like that? And I'm like, oh, dude, like stop. The corny jokes, leave them home on top of it. You know what I mean? And on top of it, I'm not helping you. Like this is not a free
just staring at you while you're working out.
Yeah, that's so weird too.
Everyone's staring at you.
So weird. But that's why I didn't go back to this gym though, because I was a little afraid of that whole thing you just mentioned. Yeah. But I was like, these other gyms over here are ruining my motivation when I get there. So I was like, this is not good. It's going to end up well for me. So let me just go there and just, maybe it'll bring something back to me, but it hasn't done that thing, unfortunately, but I'm motivated though. So it's okay. So I feel good.
What did you think about the nationals? So I don't know much about, cause that's like lower league people. So I don't know their names very much, but I tried to watch, or I did watch Dave's recap with Boston.
Yeah, I know. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet. I want to see it. Was it good?
So yeah, the recap was good. Basically,
I know a lot of I know a decent amount of the guys, so I could talk about it.
Yeah, the only thing I noticed was that there is actually a huge amount of gynecomastia in the show.
Oh, really bad.
Like
really.
a lot of people, more people than Boston even mentioned. Like I saw a lot of people that had a little bit of gyno or something.
There is a lot of guys on that stage that need the surgery or are not controlling their estrogen properly. You know what's scary though? A lot of these coaches that I know that aren't like, I don't want to call them like mainstream, but like more of the popular ones have no idea how to get people in condition like the last couple of weeks. They literally still think it's like trend that gets you in shape and mass-run. They don't realize that the anti-estrogens actually dry out the muscle and condition the muscle. And they have no education on that background. So like, I think a lot of them probably stop anti-estrogens or lower them. They don't actually increase them.
I know why you're saying that, because you're looking at the gyno and you're saying if this guy was maxed out on AIs, it wouldn't show that much.
Yeah.
Even if it's there, it won't show that much that night.
Yeah. No way.
Retract a bit. You know what I mean?
Right. Don't you feel the same way?
It does. Absolutely. You're totally right. Yeah.
Because I'd feel like if they were pushing them, there's no way that they should have any type of puffiness or anything there.
It won't, even if you have a glandular development, it won't poke out in that way if you're maxed out on letrozole.
Yeah, they're like.
Exactly. That's really true.
It's like a chick with hard nipples on stage,
Actually,
which is
yeah.
So the guy that won the overall, I think his name was Jonathan Withers. I think his name.
Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah, he had amazing quality.
He looks very good. I mean, listen, his upper body obviously could be better, but give him time. I think supposedly that was only his second show.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. I mean, his quads even his hamstrings and glutes are very good too. His whole lower half is very good. And I think there's potential for his upper body to definitely grow into matching his lower body. Because it's not bad. It's just not as developed as low. His lower body obviously has more,
His lower body is incredible from the back.
It's just crazy. His hams are like dug out, thick abductors, glutes ripped, proportion too. He's not like, weird looking. The supers were a little, besides the guy that won, the black guy, I think his name.
I want to ask you about that guy. Can you tell me, like, I only saw a few pictures of him, but apparently he's huge. So apparently he's very tall, very big, but he wasn't conditioned, was he?
So he did North Americans as well. He took second behind Nick Walker, and he was way off there. I even messaged him. I was like, dude, I'm like, who's coaching you? I'm like, you should.
Amin's client.
Was that Amin's client?
That's Amin's client. The big
even at North Americans?
I don't know about then, but Boston was saying, and Dave was saying that's Amin's client at the Nationals.
The black guy.
The big black guy who was
who won.
Yeah, who had a film of like.
Yeah, he had. So I don't know if I don't think Amin was helping him at North Americans from this is just by guessing because his DM did not come across that Amin was helping him. He said his best friend was helping him, and I don't think Amin is his best friend, but that'd be weird. But that'd be like a weird combo of friends. I don't know. Maybe it is, but it didn't come across that way. And I'm like, dude, you just bring your conditioning in. I'm like, I was praising him. I'm like, dude, you got a great body. Just bring conditioning in. And I'm like, you'll definitely get your pro card. It's only just a matter of, showing up. And I'm like, and Nick honestly was just, that was just bad timing for you. Cause he was inevitably going to turn pro at that show. So do I think he was improved for North Americans? Yes. But does he need to be better? Absolutely. I mean, I don't think his conditioning was 100% by any means at Nationals. But if you look at his North American photos, he was like way off. I mean, like not even close.
His conditioning was way worse than Walker's though, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Not Nick Walker. I mean, sorry, the guy that won Nationals overall.
Oh, yeah, definitely. 100%. Yeah, 100%. That
was like pro level conditioning.
Yes, absolutely. But the rest of the supers were nothing to even like remotely be excited about. I mean, Nate Spear, I think, was in the supers. I think his name was. I think he ended up placing third or fourth. And I think he deserved to be higher because I don't think, honestly, Brent Swanson, I think, was second. He's such a weird body and like his waist is so big and he has no sweeps on his thighs. The guy took second. Did you see him? His head's really big.
I wish I had the energy to put in a picture.
He's one of Chad's clients. I mean, he was very conditioned. I mean, Chad nailed his conditioning, but just him genetically, it just looks weird. He's got weird proportion.
I remember him. Yeah.
He's got very narrow quads and very wide waist. And then the third place guy, Nate was third. I thought Nate should have been second, got a pro card. And I think Brent should have been third. And then Vincent Masson got fourth, which I think that was – he's just big. He doesn't bring much to the table besides that. He's just a big monster.
Yeah, he looks like one of the New Jersey guys.
100%. Yeah. He used to train at Bev's. I think he trains somewhere in Queens now. But he's just big. Like his proportions are all off. He did come in shape though this show compared to his other shows. So whatever he did this show was obviously much better than he did previously because at least he was in shape. Because usually he shows up just big and out of shape. So maybe he got it figured out. I mean, the problem with the amateur ranks now, though, is it's not really like if you're going to turn pro. It's just like a process of elimination. Like as guys turn pro, you move up the totem pole and like just get, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Once the other guys that are good that turn pro, like Vince is going to turn pro eventually, just keep showing up. And like the same thing with the other guys.
What do you think about having the two top winners in each class become pros?
I think it's terrible. I think I was just talking about that. I think it's terrible because, first of all, the amateur ranks were so much better and more competitive when it was only 3 pro cards a year, even back when I was competing, not even that long ago, 2014, there was still North Americans, Nationals, USAs, but Nationals was just the top class winners. USAs was just the overall. And North Americans was just the overall. Oh. So that's even then, not even that long ago, it was much better. And before that, it was just all the overall winners of all those shows. So it was only 3 cards. So that made the amateurs a lot more fun, a lot more exciting, more competitive, and it gave these guys time to build up their physiques and become pros instead of like, these guys turning pro and they have no shot. Like the second place winners most of those classes have no shot at competing as a pro, so their careers are over. Now what do they do?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of issues with it. I don't agree with it. I never liked it. I don't understand why giving out more pro cards. For the IFBB and NPC, just before I go, talking about this, they're making money regardless if you're a pro or an amateur. So I don't know what their rush is for forcing them up.
That's what I was curious about. Is there more revenue if you're a pro just because of, you guys don't pay much per year, right? Just to give the pro card.
I think the pro card's like 300 or something for the year.
Not a huge
so the and the NPC card is like the same amount of money or something. I think it's like 300, 400, 500 or somewhere around there. So it's the same thing.
Is it more expensive to compete in pro shows than amateur shows?
No, it's more expensive for them to compete as the amateur because you have to pay.
This doesn't make sense.
That's why it doesn't make sense.
Basically, the only way it would make sense is because of, unfortunately, sometimes there's two great guys and only the number one guy wins.
Which I like that better, though.
That's because, it puts that kind of pressure there where everyone
absolutely
feels pressure. I agree. Although I don't know what I'm talking about.
And honestly, I don't think like the bantam deserves a pro card and the welterweight. Like those guys don't weigh enough.
Yeah, and some of the other divisions also. I don't know if they do like a wellness division as well, but some of these other divisions, they're not. No. You know what I mean? They maybe should be when they're standout people, they get it, but not every time.
It should be like a voting system, like if they like the judges panel, like because everything else is judged. Why can't they judge who gets a pro card then? It should be.
Great point.
You know what I mean?
Great point. Because then at least you'd have real control. Real
control. Then you could decipher who goes up and who doesn't. And it wouldn't be like automatic if these people show up and there's nobody there, because that's not fair either. Because like, let's say you or me did the show and we just so happen to be lucky and there's no one good at the show. And by default, we get our pro cards, but we don't deserve it.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Which is, I suppose, actually a good bridge to the next topic, which is Calum Von Moger.
Oh, my God.
Moger has had this. Every channel is talking about him over the last week. We talked about him a bit last week, but apparently there's been a lot of commotion, which is basically people are saying, like, what's your impression of it? Basically, it's what you're talking about. Nobody showed up that should have been a pro, basically. I mean, that's what people think, and he became a pro.
Well, I think the second place guy was definitely more deserving the pro card than he was, if you want to look at.
I didn't look at that.
He was very good. I mean, he was not a pro caliber physique guy yet, classic physique, but he was definitely complete and had a nice body. He's definitely more of a pro He's going to do something with the pro card is what I mean. Calum can't. Like Calum just doesn't have the genetics to do it. On top of it, his injuries have ruined his body for bodybuilding. Between the leg and the bicep, it's just so flawed, especially his leg. I mean, I watched his little posing thing. He doesn't even show that leg the entire time. Like, there's not a one point where he even shows it to the front of the stage. So, like, everything is to the side.
Did he take his quad off the bone? Is that what it was?
I believe it was fully ruptured. So that leg is literally a stick. Like, it's not even like it's developed. And then he turns around, he has no hams, no glutes, no back. It's almost like he doesn't even work them out. They're so soft. It's not like it wasn't like a water issue. It was just, there's no muscle there. There's zero muscle back there. And I was like, this is so frustrating to see, because clearly they told him to do a specific show, to show up at a specific show, because he prepped like a month for the show, mind you. He did it in like 4 weeks. And it was like, so like, obviously,
orchestrated.
Premeditated for him to go to this show, to go in this class, at these judges. It makes me sick, because I thought the IFBB didn't cater to that shit, but obviously in this scenario they did, and it's clear as day to me. I mean, what do you think?
A lot of people commented on our last video explaining Calum's history, which is apparently that he's some kind of celebrity because he looks like Arnold, and that's how he became famous. And I did look at a few pictures of him before his injuries, and he had a generally bigger body. So he had some back, some legs, stuff like that. His arms were never that great. They were also injected into before, so it's not new.
Always.
But now the interesting thing is this: it's like your analysis is exactly what I was seeing, which is basically he has a chest and he has injected into biceps and triceps, and then he has almost no other body parts.
Nothing.
Like almost none. So he has no legs, no hands, no glutes, no calves, no back, no
traps, nothing.
Traps, no, yeah, basically no other body parts except the arms, which are also, we have to admit they're not his completely. Yeah, they would be like 18 or less inches maybe if it wasn't affected. So basically he has one body part. So that's, I think, what people really, it looks bad. It looks like a guy who started working out 8 months ago, has been taking trend for 8 months, and went to the competition. Right?
It looks like one of those synthol guys, but not syntholed.
Yes, a little bit of synthol, and somebody who only used trend for 8 months, and he has because he has his chest and his shoulders, but
just little couple veins, and that's it.
No other body parts.
Nothing. And the best part is, like, if you watch any of his YouTube videos, he will never like fully flex his arms ever to the point where there's like that, like if a guy has good arms, right. If a guy has good arms, he'll show like his peak, and like you'll see the brachialis, you'll see the separation of the inner head, outer head. You'll see all the detail. Like he'll like be like, yep, and like joke around real quick, and that's like it. Like he'll do those like weird little things he thinks are funny with his arms and stuff. But like there's literally no horseshoe on his tricep. It's just like it's just whatever the fuck you call it. And bicep too, like you said, it's just straight across. Like it literally
and zero also.
And there's sometimes when he flexes, like I catch it on the older videos when he wasn't as safe with it. It just, you would see the blob moving. Like, you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't see the bicep, you see the blob of whatever scar tissue, whatever the fuck it was in his arm. And it's all just like t-shirt muscles. That's all it is. That's all it is.
I noticed something weird about him, but this may be completely inaccurate. But it just maybe because of facial hair. But in the competition, he had a mustache and like this thing, like a Spanish guy, and he had nothing here. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw this, but his chin is really long. Like I was like, wait a minute, is that Rich Piana? But then it wasn't him. But his chin is really long. I don't know if it's because he used to have a beard before and I never saw his chin, but that's one of the telltale signs.
His chin goes like this.
Yeah. Rich, I don't know if you ever noticed, but Rich had a chin. His was
Rich is like a square.
Yeah, because I've seen this also in the Gulf, by the way, among Arabs that really abuse GH. I knew a guy also. His chin was just unbelievable. And that happens with people who have acromegaly also. I don't know if he has it.
He also that, all right, so remember the gay singer, the guy, that really good-looking guy, what was his name? It's like who he's trying to like imitate. Someone called him out on it. I was like, holy shit, he does look just like him. I sound like an asshole now. I forgot.
Freddie Mercury?
No, he's a very popular male singer. He died of like a drug overdose.
Oh, Prince?
No.
Well, Prince did have it though.
Yeah, he did.
Like same mustache. Prince said the same thing.
This is the weirdest thing ever. I'm Googling.
Oh, this is funny.
He looks just like him. Like literally to the T. Because he put the earring in too on the one side. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't.
He put like that one little ear. Fuck me, I sound like an idiot now. I should have looked up the name.
No, you don't.
I know. I listened to some of his music too, which is kind of funny. And now I can't remember his freaking name. I'll figure it out. It'll come to my mind out of nowhere.
We'll add it to the comments later.
But the guy always had this stash and this little thing here with the earring. And everyone's like, is Calum gay? And I was like, what? I'm like, that's the craziest thing ever, just because he has the guy's same haircut. George Michael.
Oh, George Michael. I like his music, actually.
Yeah, I love his music. Yeah, some of his music is really good. Yes.
Upbeat. I love that stuff.
But if you look at some of the photos when he was younger, he had the
exactly
same thing. I'm glad I figured that out now. I don't feel like an idiot. All right.
George Michael was a cool guy. It's so sad that he died so early.
I know. Did you see that documentary on him? That was good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really good documentary.
Where'd you see it? On
it's either Prime or Netflix. I'll tell you which one it is though once I get off the computer.
Yeah, George Michael was a pretty funny guy. I'll tell the audience some couple of stories I came across about him while he was still alive. So number one, George Michael was famous for being a cocaine addict. So that's how he died. I mean, he spent many years using cocaine, so his heart gave up eventually. But the funny story about George Michael is that in England, there's this, I don't know, I guess this applies in the US too, but I guess some gay people go into male restrooms and try to like meet other gay people, but like discreetly without knowing them. George Michaels used to get caught all the time in England in public bathrooms, and he would be arrested. He would be in like a stall trying to talk to some guy.
That's hilarious.
It happened to him more than once. You guys can Google.
Damn. He was definitely a wild one. He used to wear the glasses too with the the clear, the colors or whatever. He was cool though.
He lived that YOLO life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, but his music was good though.
It was awesome. So, our weekly theme, checking up on Fouad Abiad, our friend Fouad. So there are two. I think there's two updates I wanted to mention. Yeah, I guess two. So one thing that's very interesting, Fouad's most latest podcast, he mentioned that he's on a new medication to help with his kidneys. And he didn't mention what it's called because he said that he wanted to first make sure it works before he tells anyone else about it. He doesn't mind telling people about ARBs, but he does mind telling people about this because basically he described it as being sort of experimental. But what he says is that he mentioned sodium and glucose, and he mentioned that basically it's causing your kidneys to pee out glucose and sodium. So you have less water weight. He said the problem is when he's been working out, his joints have been hurting him a bit, so he has to drink maybe more water. Actually, what he needs to drink is more sodium. But what that thing that he mentioned is actually something I'm on as well. I've been on for a week and a half. And something I mentioned on Dave Palumbo's show, which is called gliflozin, an SGLT2 inhibitor. So I don't know if I mentioned this on this podcast, but just so you know, what that does is your kidneys remove glucose from your bloodstream. And there's a thing called the sodium glucose co-transporter 2 that takes sodium and glucose out of the kidneys and back into the bloodstream. This drug stops you from doing that. So you pee out the salt and the glucose. The reason why Fouad might be taking this, and he must have a very good doctor to have found out about it, is that these drugs that are only about 7 years old, approved in the US, number one, they decrease mortality among diabetics with heart conditions by 30% in 3 years, which is dramatic. It's crazy.
That's huge.
The second thing they do is although acutely, when you take the medication, your EGFR will actually worsen. Even though they do that acutely, they actually delay the progression of chronic kidney disease. And this has been found across studies. So actually, I was just talking to someone on email consultation. I have email consultations people can buy on my website. I respond with an email. And I was mentioning it today. And then just before our call, I went to listen to Fouad's podcast. And I was shocked that he is also taking the same thing that I'm taking.
What do you think is the main underlying issue that he needs to take that now? What do you think?
He mentioned that he's taking it to try to help with his kidneys because they do decrease the rate of chronic kidney disease development. Like they decrease the rate at which someone will go on dialysis. Because it's not understood totally why, but it's thought because of less fluid as well as change in the ratio in the nature of serum of the blood because of what you're excreting.
Do you think that's just part of the issue, or you think that's the only issue he has going on?
That's a good question. So I talked to a mutual friend of ours just before the call, and I texted him. I was like, "Oh, this guy's on empagliflozin." I wonder. So that guy was like, "You think he's diabetic?" I was like, "No, he says he's not diabetic, but he."
Well, hold on, real quick. The diabetic thing is funny. I just want to cut you off because I was going to bring it up to you last time on the podcast or the time before, but the last time he made me that watch another podcast specifically about one of the things, he was at the end. He's like, I got to go. I'm going hypo.
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk to you about next, actually.
All right. That's kind of fucking weird.
Let's talk about that. So on this podcast also, Fouad and the other guys started discussing the situation of like, if you go hypo, what do you do? And it was supposed to be like a joke. Fouad was like, when I go hypo, I eat a cheesecake. I eat everything in my house. I end up fat. And the other guy was like, when I go hypo, you just need to take a little bit of dextrose or whatever. When I was hearing this, I was like, wait a minute, why are these guys going hypo? There's two reasons you can go hypo. I thought this could be really educational for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason you can go hypo is because you're taking insulin. What does that mean? Well, the insulin is taking glucose and shoving, basically storing it in your body. So if you take insulin and you don't eat enough, consume enough glucose, you could end up with too low blood sugar, you could faint and all that kind of stuff. Now, is the reason bodybuilders take insulin, is it because they want to shuttle the glucose into the muscle? Not necessarily, because they should have insulin on their own. The reason really that why they add insulin is because insulin itself is also a signaling hormone that turns on growth pathways generally. The more insulin you have, the more these growth pathways are turned on in general. So sometimes you feed the insulin, you drink pineapple juice or whatever, just to keep the insulin because you want the insulin high. So that's number one. But there's another reason you could go hypo, which is I think what's happening with Fouad and these guys, because they're not mentioning insulin. If you're going hypo and you don't use insulin, this means you're hyperinsulinemic. That's an actual condition.
Yep.
That means your body, you take in a little bit of glucose, your pancreas is like, holy shit, more glucose. I'm sick of this. I got to overproduce insulin, get rid of this stuff because I always have high glucose in me. Basically, this is what it means. 10 years before someone becomes diabetic, which means hyperglycemic, means he has a lot of sugar in his blood. 10 years before that, he starts to become hyperinsulinemic, which means he has a lot of insulin in his blood. This insulin is storing the sugar. So actually, for the first 10 years of the disease of type 2 diabetes, you shouldn't have high blood sugars. Your insulin is over-responsive. So your blood sugar should actually be hypo. It should be going down, down, down. And then at some point, the insulin can no longer deal with it. And that's when it escalates. So the only way you can tell if you're doing this is to go to a doctor and take what's called an oral glucose tolerance test. For 2 hours, they're going to give you an glucose challenge. And then they're going to measure your serum insulin and serum glucose at regular intervals for 2 hours. And they'll see, does your insulin overshoot? And that's how you know why you're going hypo, if you're becoming diabetic.
That was the issue I was having for a while.
You were getting that hyper just without insulin. You were just, it was shooting down.
Well, because obviously I think my weight, so I had a lot of determining factors here. So, because now when I eat carbs, I'm not anywhere near what I was before. So I think my weight, obviously, because I was, let's preface that, I was 350, out of shape, not working out, unhealthy. You know what I mean? I was not taking care of myself. So I think that was a lot of the reason why my pancreas was not obviously working properly. Then once I got my body weight down, I realized just from trial and error, I've been on the ketogenic diet since January. My body, for some reason, I feel and I operate better just on the low to zero carbohydrate diet. For some reason, I just feel better. Now, when I do have those cheat meals, my glucose doesn't even move. Like, I'm fine. So before, if I had even like a speckle of rice, my glucose would be like I was so hyper all the time. It was scary. Like I think I told you that before, previously.
In one of the first calls.
Yeah. So now that I feel like I got my body weight under control and I'm at a lot healthier standpoint, I don't think I would be anywhere near what I was before, but I haven't tested it because I just been strictly ketogenic. But that was the same issue I was having though when I was heavy. Do you think the weight and everything else has anything to do with it? Like body fat?
Absolutely. So you're talking though about having too high blood sugar, right? Not too low.
No, mine would drop.
Would drop. Okay. So
let's say I had a normal whatever meal, a cup of rice or oatmeal would sustain longer. But let's say if I had white rice, like 3 hours or whatever, I would start feeling like hyper. So like my glucose was very low. So
what would happen basically is that your pancreas would send out too much insulin. Why does it do this? Is it because you're overweight? Not quite. It does this because of this root issue of insulin sensitivity, meaning your pancreas is releasing insulin, but this insulin, it grabs this glucose and to put it into glycogen, and it goes to the muscle cell and it doesn't work. It can't put it in. So your pancreas releases more insulin and more, and it overshoots it and shoots it in, and you have too little. So what's the actual solution in regard to weight loss? We'll leave ketogenic diet aside for a second. When you lose weight, you lose visceral fat on your liver and in your pancreas. And that visceral fat seems to be, a lot of it, responsible for the insulin resistance. So when you lose this, first of all, your body is better. The insulin can actually shove it in. So you don't need to overproduce. The second thing is the ketogenic diet actually makes people far more insulin sensitive. So it's actually the cure. The cure is the ketogenic diet or fasting or both.
Yeah, I do fasting too. So,
that's the cure.
Yeah.
So that was one thing.
Do you think because also Fouad's like overweight now too, like rebounding from that show, you think he's more sensitive?
I mean, I think probably Fouad is like on his way to type 2 diabetes or is already a type 2 diabetic from the way he looks, from the way his muscles on his arms shrank a little bit and the legs.
You see that, right?
Yeah, that's insulin resistant. That's
the atrophy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's insulin resistance. And also keep in mind one thing. Kidney disease is very associated with diabetes. So I don't know if there's some kind of association there.
Plus, he's not young anymore either.
By the way, did Stan Efferding win his pro card in the Masters or in the regular? Do you know? I'm curious.
There's no way it was regular. There's no way.
Because
it has to be. It has to be Masters.
Okay.
It has to be. There's no way. I don't remember him ever being competitive as a open because his legs were horrible.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, there's this huge guy who always says, "What's up?" Something like that. You know what I'm talking about? Huge, massive guy.
The foreigner?
No, the guy who out angles everyone in pictures. He's from the middle of the U.S. somewhere. He lives in Vegas.
Craig.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about this guy. So I saw one of his interviews in which he was, by the way, I really like this guy. He's like such a good mood and he's so uplifting. But I watched an interview where he's like, I don't use GH. I've never used GH. Like, you're 330 pounds. What are you, the gift of God? You've never touched GH or insulin? What are you talking about? Why would he even say that is what I'm trying to understand.
So, funny, bring him up. Craig is eccentric, okay? I can't figure him out. I love the guy. I've known him for a very long time, actually. He does have very good genetics, I will say that. Because even before Juice, when I knew him, he was still like ripped and muscular, just like a perfect stripper body. You know what I'm saying? Like had big arms and like sick abs, a good chest that was like ripped. And then when he started to like, you know, get jacked, like he did blow up. Okay. Like he did explode, but for him to say that, I think he's just trolling people because he's a fucking goofball weirdo like that. Like he just likes being like I think a ball buster, you know, I mean, he always says sap, like all that stupid.
Yeah, that's sap.
I can't even do it what he does. He does the bicep thing. It's like his whole thing, you know what I mean? So I literally think it's him just like, he's also weird about talking about what he does, like for some reason, like openly. I don't know why, but he's always been like not so open about it. You know what I mean? Like even sometimes with me, he's like, "Oh, I'm only taking 200 milligrams a test." I'm like, "Shut up, Craig! Like you haven't come off in like 10 years. Like please, you know what I mean?" So I don't even take him serious, and when he talks, I like unless like he's sitting there telling me he's serious, I don't take him serious. So I just think it's him. Like what was on Generation Iron or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he lives in Vegas, so. Yeah, we've been friends for a long time. We have a lot of mutual friends. He's a character though. I mean, he's like that's how he is though. Like even I don't want to say off camera, like he's a reality TV star, but like in real life, he's just a big goofball. Like he just fucks with people all the time. You know what I mean? Like he literally fucks. You know, like on his. You ever see his story on Instagram where he like bothers people all the time and like. You ever see him do it? Oh my god, it's so funny.
But he's everything I see him comment on is really funny.
Yeah, he's fucking out there. So it's humorous.
So I thought since, you know, we call this podcast biohacking and bodybuilding, we have to include some informative content each time. So I want to do like a brief, like in the middle of this podcast, I want to do a brief informative part.
Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this Dutasteride real quick that I had issues with.
So you tried Dutasteride 3 times and got anxiety immediately after.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, I usually take finasteride. I take 5 milligrams of it. And I've been, what?
5 milligrams? You take ProStar?
So we'll talk about that another time. But anyway, I was like, let me try this Dutasteride. A lot of it because of your friend over there from
Derek.
Yeah. Derek talks about it a lot. And I was like, let me just see if there's any difference in this. So I ordered it. I got it. I ordered a ton of it. And I take it the first day. I usually take my medication like after I eat. I usually don't take anything on an empty stomach anyway. But I ate around like, I don't know, noon or something for breakfast. I don't eat breakfast early. And then I took it around like 2. And I'm sitting here working and I just started getting like the trembles in my hand. My mind started doing like the scrambled egg thing, like literally like an hour after I took it. And I'm like, it's fucking weird. I'm like, I'm totally calm right now. I'm like, I'm just going to ignore it, see what happens. Another half hour goes by. And now it's like I can like feel it in my throat, and I'm just like, oh God, I'm like, why do I fucking such bad anxiety? So I took some propranolol, and I chilled out, and it eventually went away like after like another hour. But anyway, so I did it again the next day. I'm like, it's got to be this Dutasteride. It's the only thing I changed. So I took it again in the morning because I was like, let me just take it. I wanted to know if it wasn't doing that or not. And another again, like another hour and a half later, I'm like, God damn it. Like, there's no way this could be causing. And that's why I texted you. I was like, do you think this could be crushing my DHT that bad to cause anxiety? And then, you know, because you had your rebuttal to that, but then I took it again the third time just to try it again. And it did the same fucking thing to me. I was like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm over it.
So let me tell you exactly what was happening. Every time you took that pill, so you remember Xanax when you used to use Xanax.
Yes.
What Xanax does is it doesn't. So there are these receptors in the brain called GABA A receptors. Okay. Right. Xanax goes and holds this receptor open to make it more receptive to GABA. Okay. That's what Xanax does. Now, when you take a Xanax, this enhances your GABA, whatever, in your brain. But what many people don't know is that without taking anything, we already have a molecule that does almost exactly what Xanax does. And it's called allopregnanolone. It already goes in and holds GABA-A open. Allopregnanolone is made via 5-alpha reductase from progesterone. When you take finasteride, you inhibit that 5-alpha reductase, you reduce the allopregnanolone. If you take dutasteride, it inhibits another isoform, even stronger, even harsher, and basically you just shut off your allopregnanolone. So what did you do? You just un-Xanaxed yourself without taking a Xanax. So imagine you go from normal to the opposite of Xanax. Like you went opposite. The opposite.
Literally 180, yeah. 100%.
That's exactly what it does. And the cure, there is actually a one medication that will replace exactly what that is. It's called etifoxine. Etifoxine is like Xanax, but uses a different attachment point to hold open the GABA-A receptor, but it also increases the synthesis of allopregnanolone. The problem is there could be some dependency from that. There are other options, like if you just took progesterone twice a day, it might undo this.
Right.
You know, I was going to talk to you more about it, but you gave up real quick.
I gave up. I was like, because what's going to happen is I'm going to be taking the Dutasteride and forget about the other ones, and I'll be like, God damn it, and they'll just throw the whole day off again. So I'm like, I'm done. Yeah. There's literally just 3 things missing out of it, and I gave up on it. And I'm just like, forget. I'm like, at least I know it's real.
Okay, so but by the way, Derek doesn't like take Dutasteride, or doesn't recommend. He didn't recommend me to take Dutasteride daily. Like he thinks you can use it once a week and get a significant change in the hair loss without using it daily.
Yeah, I think he said that in one of the video. I think he talked about using it once a week or something.
So let's mention briefly this subject of statins and cholesterol. So if you guys remember when Dallas McCarver died, in his autopsy, they said that he had advanced atherosclerosis, which means he had advanced plaque in his arteries. When Arnold Schwarzenegger got his first heart surgery, he did a quadruple bypass. What that means is that the arteries were filled with so much plaque that his heart couldn't beat through it, and he was going to have a heart attack if they didn't open up or clear out these arteries. Right. So this plaque stuff is a lot of the reason people get heart attacks. What does the plaque do? Basically, it fills out your arteries so that your heart has to work so hard to be able to pump the blood. Now, what else could do that? If it wasn't plaque, by the way, blood pressure, right? Blood pressure, when it narrows down the arteries, makes your heart work harder. That's the major danger with blood pressure other than kidneys. But back to plaque. What's plaque made out of? Plaque is made out of LDL cholesterol particles, most importantly. LDL cholesterol is when you go get your blood, the bad cholesterol, that staying in your bloodstream, the more of those you have, combined with inflammation, like stress, if you're on Trenbolone, you're always a bit stressed, other kinds of inflammation, those two together, LDL particles deposit inside the arterial wall, and that's what begins to form plaques. So this is the reason many bodybuilders may be interested while on cycle to take something to reduce their LDL cholesterol, just temporarily. Because you might see, hey, I'm on cycle for 8 months. My LDL cholesterol is really high. But I go off cycle, it repairs itself. Well, that's fine. But if you're doing 2 cycles a year, 8 weeks each time, that's already 4 months. Now you got bad cholesterol for 4 months. Yeah. Instead of that, you could have taken something that would limit the LDL cholesterol in your blood. You may still have a lot of inflammation, but at least you have less LDL cholesterol particles. that can cause that damage that Dallas McCarver got and other people got. So this is the reason for using statins. That's why I wanted to bring this up, because someone was asking me last week, why do you use statins on a cycle? And the reason would be, what statins do, they reduce the synthesis of cholesterol from the liver, which in turn upregulates LDL receptors at the liver, which pull out the LDL cholesterol from the blood. Statins pull that out.
Do you think that was, back to Dallas real quick, do you think that was one of the, do you think heart attack was the root of cause of his death?
I don't know if he had a complete blockage that would have caused a heart attack, but having the level of atherosclerosis that they described for a number of years would certainly have worsened his heart condition. Basically, he's pumping very hard. He's 300 pounds. His arteries are clogged. So it's the worst case scenario for your heart. Whereas the Rich Piana, for example, they didn't find atherosclerosis. His heart was just...
Oh, they didn't find it on him? Really?
No, he had clear arteries. But and now the other thing is to mention, so what is a calcium score? People keep mentioning, we've talked about this before.
Yeah. Everyone's obsessed with that.
Yeah, calcium score is when you've got plaque in your arteries for 10 years or so. The plaque, your body, if you're healthy, your body starts to heal the plaques and put calcium there. So if you get a calcium score of any number, and what that means basically is you had a lot of plaque 10 years ago and some of it healed. Now, statins, what many people don't know, actually increase the rate of calcification of plaque. So they will actually increase your CAC score. But of all medications on earth, they have saved some of the most lives of any medications. They really save lives. Now, there are other, I should mention maybe, for example, side effects. Now, what most people hear about with statins is muscle weakness. And some people get this. I didn't get it personally that much. Some people, like from the Delray Misfits, Andrew, for example, Andrew Kalura is on statins right now. He used to bench press 600 pounds. He says it's very difficult for him to be able to compete in strength with a statin. It depends how strong your statin is. There are different kinds of statins. The other side effects are incredible erections. Everybody knows about this. If you take a statin, it's as effective as Cialis. It's weird.
That's hilarious.
Seriously, by the way. And it doesn't.
I was going to say, do you believe in those people that take Cialis on the regular? Like, do you believe in that theory?
Not for blood pressure reasons. So Cialis is actually prescribed mainly for people that have what's called pulmonary hypertension, which means their lungs have hypertension. Right. But Cialis long-term has shown kidney protective effects, of course, when people are not using ARBs. Right. And it has other benefits. I mean, it's not a harm if you just want to have good erections all the time. But statins do it from a different way. The hardness is different. The combination is incredible. Many people don't know that. The other thing is that 10% of men on statins develop blood sugar issues, diabetes. Women develop it much more likely. You can find ways to combat that. Some people get brain fog, but this again depends on the statin. If the statin is not lipophilic, it can't go into the brain, so it won't affect you as much. And again, for the diabetes, there are statins that are not associated with diabetes, like pitavastatin. And rosuvastatin, which is my current favorite, doesn't go into the blood-brain barrier, so it shouldn't affect your brain fog much. You don't need to take it every day. You can take a very low dose. It's very powerful. Now,
what was your reasoning for including this in your experiment of health?
I take a statin not all the time. And actually, before I mention that, let me just mention a couple let's talk about it now. So I take a statin basically sometimes if my LDL cholesterol has risen past 70 nanograms per deciliter. Past the level of 70, you're likely to develop plaque. There's a lot of studies showing that. 70 is very low, by the way. Most people are in the hundreds. Yeah. So I would use it, for example, like 3 days a week if I was over 70 for a couple of weeks. Check my blood again. If it's below, I let go of it. Okay. But
what we can do though is I'm getting my blood work done on Monday next week, and we can, once I get it back, we can kind of do it on here if you want.
That would be very cool
for people to go through everything, because I think blood work analysis is overlooked a lot and people don't understand it thoroughly. Because like you just said, remember how you just said 70 is not that high. People don't understand ranges, and that's just one thing we could talk about. But
yeah, I just mentioned briefly, other than plaque, the main concerns for a bodybuilder are left ventricular hypertrophy, as well as, I just wrote some notes before this, arrhythmia, as well as fibrosis. Fibrosis means scar tissue being put in the heart. Now, fibrosis usually happens when there's a lot of oxidative stress in the heart. So for example, if you're an endurance runner, you go run ultra marathons, you're going to get cardiac fibrosis. Too much damage to your heart, too much pressure. You're running at too high speeds or cycling for too long. But in terms of arrhythmias, the main thing that arrhythmias are often happen when people have too high a heartbeat for too long. So beta blockers are what people use to avoid those. And left ventricular hypertrophy comes again also from having high blood pressure where the heart has to work very hard. So if you don't have plaque and you don't have high blood pressure, you're much less likely to develop that.
Right.
That's an ARB again. So I just wanted to mention these. And for people who are like, okay, statins have too many side effects, I don't want them. You don't have to use a statin. Statins have the most evidence of increasing lifespan, but you can use a PCSK9 inhibitor if you're rich, like Repatha. These don't increase calcium deposits, it seems. You could use ezetimibe, which is what I use often. Ezetimibe is a lovely innocuous medication. Not very dangerous, very nice, gets rid of fat on the liver. All ezetimibe does is stop your liver from being able to take cholesterol from bile, to take it back, as well as it stops you from being able to digest dietary cholesterol. So it's very innocuous. You don't see side effects from it. And then there's bempedoic acid, which also inhibits cholesterol, the higher level up in the liver. Right? I just want to mention this for you guys so everyone can benefit and have some new ideas for ways to approach cardiovascular health on cycle.
When you talk about cholesterol, and I get this question a lot, they're like, you're on a ketogenic diet, isn't your cholesterol out of whack? But I always tell them no, because I'm not, I think a lot of people think ketogenic diets are built on like cheeseburgers and cheese and like bacon, like, you know what I'm saying? And yes, do I include that in my diet? When I have a cheat, I have those things, but my ketogenic diet is very clean. You know what I mean? I'm not eating foods that will disrupt my cholesterol like that permanently, but there's a lot of people that think like ketogenic diet is like, oh, my cholesterol is so out of whack when I did keto. And I'm like, oh my God, like these people don't know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to ketogenic diet.
Yeah, because people want to have fun. So they're like, okay, I can eat fats. Great, I'll eat bacon only. Only. You know what I mean?
The fun word's definitely key.
Why only?
They think diets are going to be fun. I'm like, this is not fun what I do. It's not fun at all. It's just a form of eating healthy. There's
certainly a way to do a ketogenic diet and not have high cholesterol.
Right.
A lot of fats that are not going to affect your cholesterol like that. It's mainly dietary cholesterol and saturated fat that seems to raise LDL cholesterol. But again, there are ketogenic diet people that are the bacon type people who will come and say LDL cholesterol doesn't matter, which the carnivore guy did that in the
he did say that? Oh,
he did say, which is, I mean, honestly, if you want to run that bet on your life,
go ahead and have fun with that. I'm not doing that either.
So you could do it. Hey, the last thing I wanted to ask you about is I saw Nick Strength and Power did some Olympia predictions. So it's 4 weeks out. I don't know if you've done yours yet. Usually,
I haven't done mine yet. No,
yeah, I need to. I'll wait till you do yours. Then we'll discuss on the podcast.
Did you want to talk about his?
He basically, did you see his?
I saw parts of it. I didn't see the whole thing.
Basically, he put my God, I'm forgetting everyone's name. He put
Bonac, Rolly.
He put Rolly. I don't know if it was in the top 6. He put Bonac 4th, I think. Then he put the Iranian guy 3rd. Then he put last year's winner 2nd. Then
Brandon.
He put your friend 1st.
Phil.
No names. But then he put Rami before Bonac, after Bonac. And then he put Dexter after Rami.
Okay. I mean...
So Dexter, I mean, unless everyone shows up with a problem, Dexter shouldn't be in the top 5.
I was just going to say, he's not really like a threat anymore to that top 5.
Yeah.
Listen, he placed 7th, I think, last time. And I think that was a gift. So now, like, you consider the top 6 guys pretty much are going to be heavy hitters now this year with Phil back and Hottie in there. If Flex Lewis was there, he'd definitely be fucked. I mean, that would have been a really bad matchup for him. Yeah, so luckily Flex is not there. He's lucky Cedric's not there. I think he's going to place out of the top 6 personally because I don't think he can hang with them size-wise anymore, especially in his legs. Conditioning is conditioning. It doesn't mean you're going to be in the top 3 in the Mr. Olympia because you're conditioned. That doesn't mean jack shit. You have to be ginormous and shredded. You know what I mean? There's just you have to have muscle on your body. But I think it's going to be very, very competitive from 3 to 6, because I think Brandon's not going to place out of the top 2. I don't think they're going to push Brandon down that far, because this is how I look at it politically. Yeah. Phil's definitely going to win. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Phil's going to walk away with that trophy because they need a storyline, number one. This is political. This is keeping my friendship out of the whole thing. This is just talking like straight up bodybuilding politics. They want him to win that 8 Sandow, to come back, to have a story, because they love stories, the IFBB. They love storylines. He's the comeback. He wins number 8. He ties Ronnie Coleman, ties Arnold. If he comes back for 9, that's a whole nother story. But they're focused on right now. And I think if they know that Brandon's not going to go anywhere, they can get Brandon second, and he'll come back next year and still be a good leader for the bodybuilding community, because he still is a good leader, right? And who else is going to take that torch right now if Phil decides to retire after this year? They're fucked, because you can't have Rami. He's not here. Hottie's not here. So I don't think they're going to drop Brandon that far, because they'd be so disrespectful to him. And they want this rivalry between Curry and Phil, because that's what it seems to be, right? Like so far leading up to the show, it seems like it's all about Brandon and Phil. And they're the only 2 that I could say that are worthy of a title, because Brandon already won it, and obviously Phil's 7-time. Then 3, it could be either Hottie, Rolly, Bonac, Rami. It could be any of them. I think just who shows up is going to be 3rd. And then from there, it doesn't even matter, honestly. They'll just fall where they fall. But I think there's no way they're going to deny Phil. I mean, even Phil's like 90%. I just don't think Brandon could, just even from a physique-wise, can stand with Phil. I think Phil's just way too good. And by the way Phil looks right now, it's like, fucking, I'm not just saying it, it's fucking epic looking. Like, he's crazy looking right now.
Are you seeing things that we're not seeing?
I mean, yeah, we FaceTime and he shows me what he looks like. He won't send me a photo because he's like, I don't trust you. You're going to fucking leak that shit. And he jokes around, obviously, but FaceTime, he looks fucking crazy. I mean, you can't Photoshop a FaceTime. So his stomach's flat. There's no scar. There's going to be no distension. You know what I mean? So
stomach. Wow.
Oh, yeah. So he looks really good. And I'm not just saying, like, I think this is, like, as far as out as he is, like still like a month or whatever they are, I think this is probably like one of his, like a 2014, 2013 Phil type of version. I think the way his legs look, like he doesn't look like he's 40 years old. I mean, it's like crazy. I mean, I don't know, man. His genetics are just something else. Like, unless you, like, I knew they were good. And now that I'm friends with him and I see how he trains like a motherfucker, don't get me wrong, but like the way he's able to eat for a diet is crazy, and how lean he is eating the foods he's on, it's just mind blowing. It's like literally, I would love to die. Like, I would love for him to do like donate his body for like an autopsy when he's like, you know, whenever that comes, just to see what he look like. You know what I mean? Like genetics, like what genetics.
Check out his genes. He doesn't need to donate it. Just do a 23andMe and we'll have
it. Do a 23andMe. So fucking crazy, man. Crazy.
Last week, apparently, we skipped the questions, and we got a lot of questions the week before. So people were a little bit, I mean, NPH Fit, it was a young lady. She was a little bit upset. She said, I asked a lot of questions. You guys didn't answer any of them.
Well, so, let's go. Let's have some fun.
So let's go through them. Number 1. So Carved Out a Stone, who always watches our show, and I love his comments. Carved Out a Stone says, interesting also that you brought up Layne Norton. Notice how he couldn't stop talking about his love for his wife the entire interview. Overcompensating a little, maybe? Mr. Sanctimonious, preacher of integrity himself, was scandalized a few years ago when caught in a scandal of cheating on his pregnant wife at the time. Not that I care if he's natty or not, but Mr. PhD took a pretty nasty fall from his eye. He's very upset with Layne, but the point, what he's saying is true though. This did happen actually. Layne.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's very well known. Layne's not a.
Oh wait, hold on a second. I know what happened. I know that story now. That was big on the forums when it happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, I heard about it. I don't know how I heard about it, but yeah, I heard about it as well.
It was a while ago, right?
Hey, not everybody has integrity, man. It's not. Look, it's not easy to stick. I mean, when you have a girlfriend or a wife, and especially if you come up in life, like if you have your girlfriend and then you become rich or you become famous, like we saw with Jeff Bezos, for example. I mean, I don't know too much about that, but I've had friends that I've seen this happen to, right? Where they can like trade in the girl that they're with for a better one, and they just do. It takes a lot of integrity to stand by the person you love when it's no longer in your selfish best interest to be with her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you're going to be married in life, there's going to be tons of opportunities where you meet a woman younger, funner, whatever, and you could do this, you know?
The age thing is definitely, I think, the biggest factor. I think people are so afraid of aging and feeling old. So like they get this young chick, guys get a young chick and they're like, oh, I feel young now because she's doing more and bringing out like all the best things in me, you know, like those cheesy lines, you know, that guys use. I'm like, dude, just because she's 30 years younger than you, like that's why she wants to do these things that are fun that you thought were fun when you were 21. You know what I mean? You just evolve. Different things float your boat, you know, and I think that's what guys are afraid of feeling old. And so they think like a young girl is going to like spike this like fire in them again. But meanwhile, I mean, your friends that have had go down that road or whoever you know, do most of the time they end up breaking up with those people?
Yeah, their lives never go well. After
it's always like a train wreck, right?
and I think like, you know, part of it is not just that they want to feel younger with the woman, but part of it's like genetically, I think as men, we have this thing to spread our seed. So when you're with one woman for long enough, you get this itch inside you that's like, sometimes it's like, go spread your seed. You know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's like
a dog.
Yeah, like, you know, like exactly. It's true. It's a based, you know, an animalistic way to think.
It is.
For you to decide, no, I'm going to be loyal to this woman, or at least, you know, honest with her or whatever. It's a kind of sacrifice. You know, in life, nothing without sacrifice, we mean nothing. We have no honor. We have no nothing. But sacrifice can't be easy. Otherwise, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Know, I was just having this conversation with one of my good friends. I'm not going to say his name because he'll kill me, but he was just in like a 3-4 year relationship, was going to get engaged. Long story short, they ended up breaking up over Instagram. Okay. Because literally they couldn't handle each other's Instagrams because people would get, you know, girls would DM him or guys would DM her and they're like, oh, unfollow her, unfollow him. And I think today we have a lot more distractions that we did dating people when we were younger, even when we were younger, right? Social media wasn't around. So we didn't have all these temptations, like literally like Lenny is with his porn, like fucking right there. Like I can hit this girl and she could possibly answer me and I could possibly fuck her today. Like that's what guys think though. And like, even though they're delirious and they probably couldn't get the girl, they're like, oh, I can't be with this girl because I can possibly get this one. And that's literally what he does. And that's his biggest problem is that he lives through the phone and he's always like, yeah, but look at this girl. And I'm like, yeah, but dude, like who fucking cares? Like she probably doesn't even look like that anyway. It's probably Photoshopped. Number two, you'll probably never get along with her anyway. She's probably like a 2x4 talking to. Like who cares? You know, like you have this good girl next to you. And I just think the social media ruined a lot of relationships, and I think it's going to continue to get worse. It's almost like there's no relationships anymore, right? Do you feel like that? Like no one lasts. Like nobody.
Well, I mean. In America, yeah, I totally know. There are places in the world where the family stuff is still, you know, top notch. People get married and they're very loyal, stuff like that.
I'm still the same way though. I didn't change. I never was like the guy, I can't wait to be single my whole life. I didn't think like that. Even when I was a kid, I was always like, I just want someone to be like, you know, like my best friend. Yeah.
You want a proper, but so I think what drives that kind of thing is like ego. When you're not,
oh man, forget about it.
Yeah,
you're right. 100%. You're right. 100%.
When you're not like self-sufficient, when you're not just okay with who you are, and you know, some guys, if you've never experienced that before, like if you've never dated a woman who's the best looking woman wherever you take her, then it can be a crazy experience. You go out, every guy looks at you. Who's this guy? How did he get her? You know, every girl looks at you too because they want to compete with her.
Of course. They're like, yeah, why her?
So there is that. But then at some point you realize it's all sort of meaningless, right? You know, so you choose loyalty, you choose friendship, you choose those kind of things over glamour and whatever.
Yeah, it's because like obviously looks will only be, listen, I never, even like when I was in my crazy self 20-year-old self body, even like the girls I would go hang out with were the ones I had the most fun with. Yes, they were good looking, but obviously like I wasn't picking the ugliest girl by any means, but like, let me say this, like definitely the girl I had more fun with was the girl I hung out with more, just for me. And that's not trying to sound cheesy. Like I just rather have fun than worry about all that other crap. Like I was like, let's have the best time ever type of thing, you know, instead of like dragging myself through pain and agony into a date where it's like awkward and you can't talk to them and it's weird and they're stupid. You don't get along. Like,
yeah. That's so dating someone new is the worst.
It's so bad. I hate it. It's the worst.
Someone told me a quote once, which is really accurate. For every woman that someone sees that's a 10, that you can't believe, like you go crazy over, there's some guy that's sick of seeing her face. You know? And for every single one, the grass is always greener.
It's so true.
Not really, you know? So it's not worth it for all that kind of stuff. Okay,
it's a very good way of putting it.
We have a question for you. This gentleman says, what's the dumbest thing or just a mistake that you've heard that someone did for peaking for a show? It can be in any category and at any time.
Oh my God, there's a fucking list of those things.
Boston mentioned this guy eating potatoes or something like that before the competition.
Oh, who was that?
I don't know.
I know the story though. He was eating a ton of like. Oh, I know who it was. I'm not gonna say his name though because he'll get really upset. I know he's a very sensitive bodybuilder. I'm not going to say who it is.
Did you really have a guy eat potato? Is that really the real deal?
Yeah, like pounds of potato.
Slowest digesting.
Not like a potato. I mean like Idaho bags of potatoes, like ridiculous amounts of potatoes.
I feel like the guy who wrote that protocol was the same guy who was doing the watermelons for Ron. Watermelon thing. There's one guy out there sending these programs to people like watermelon, potato, just keep pound.
It's so fucking true. I mean, from a dangerous standpoint, guys that take like multiple diuretics, that's really bad. Like a lot of kids do that. They'll combine like aldactone with Diazy, with Lasix, with like the stupidity level is crazy when it comes to that stuff.
Liquid Lasix, injectable Lasix anymore?
Yeah. So,
other than I mean,
so fucking many people do, and I'm just like, good luck with that one. Like that's not going to end up well. Demidex, it's another one. Combination. People combine diuretics all the time, which I think is wild. Now the thing you think would be like the most common, something you wouldn't commonly do, but a lot of people stop drinking water for like days before shows and just like eat. And they think dropping their water completely is going to get them dry because they think like no water in, oh, my skin will be drier. But that's like the most common one I see with prep coaches and competitors, that they think that they have to stop drinking water. Like literally,
the diuretic is the reason you don't have to stop. Otherwise,
because
if
then
you didn't have a diuretic, maybe you would do that.
They stop for like days though. Like 3-4 days. I'm like, what? What do you mean? You haven't had water in 4 days? I'm like, I'm just drinking green tea. I'm like, okay, good luck with that.
There's enough problems with the kidneys. You don't need to not drink water. That's the way.
Man.
Actually, people often ask me about like dry fasting, and you know, for sure, I don't
even know what that means. What is dry?
It means like not eating or drinking.
Isn't fasting just not eating or what?
Not eating. Yeah, but this is dry fasting, so no water. That's what they mean. But I just want to mention to guys, I'm sure if you don't drink water, the stress on your body will be higher. So maybe the autophagy and things like that may be enhanced, but it's very difficult on your kidneys. So you would never want to do that. Yeah, I mean, even this stomach fast that's like that, it's only a few hours of the day. They don't do it for days in a row.
No.
Okay, so let's get to one of these from NPH Fit. So she says, do you think to be one of the best in the world at a sport or profession, people who were or are one of the best in the world, do you believe one has to have some sort of OCD, mental health issue, illness similar to clinical OCD, or something in order to achieve that kind of level?
They're saying, do you have to be OCD to be successful, to be the best?
Yeah, do you have to be neurotic is what she means basically.
I mean, I don't think anybody is in the right mind to obsess over one thing like to that degree. Like if you're going to say, Like, does Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan wired the same as, you know, an average guy that plays basketball? I don't think so. I think they have to be. I don't know if it's called OCD, though. I mean, I don't know what you would classify him as medically, but I think, yes, there's something definitely not. I don't think it's a negative thing that they're wired that way. It's just how they're wired. So I don't perceive it as a negative thing. But somebody that has that drive and determination to go after one thing, I just think they have laser light focus and they just know what they want out of life. And usually, believe it or not, if you talk to those people, they're very balanced though mentally. Like they're very calm and collective people because they know what they want. They're not stressing about other things. They're not letting outside things interfere with their goals or whatever they're trying to achieve. And they're actually the most I would say like I said before, just like calm, collective, driven, focused. They're not distracted by anything. So like they have that one solitary goal and that's it. And honestly, I wish I was that way because I'm not. I'm all over the fucking place. I have like 30 different things I want to do. So like I never obsessed over one thing. And I think that's my biggest downfall. I mean, I get very into something and I kind of like, all right, now let me do something else, but do that as well. And then I try to do too much at once. What do you have the tendency of doing?
Well, before I say so, I want to just address her question. So she said OCD. OCD is a kind of disease that stems from anxiety. When people have very severe anxiety, they start to control the world around them as much as they can. So they can do weird stuff like shower 5 times a day, like Hitler did. Hitler used to shower 5 times a day. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah. Most people who are conservative tend to be like that also. They like to control things around them. So that's an element of neuroticism. Now, for the people who are listening who are like genetics, you may have heard of the warrior or worrier neural phenotype. It comes from one SNP. Don't read too much into it. But this one SNP is in the COMT enzyme. The COMT enzyme gets rid of dopamine and norepinephrine in the brain. So if your COMT is overactive, you have less dopamine and norepinephrine. If your COMT is underactive, you have more dopamine and norepinephrine. When you have more dopamine and norepinephrine, you become more neurotic because dopamine agonizes the adrenergic receptors. So does norepinephrine. The people who are like that seem to be better at doing long-term goals across their lives. Right. Because they're more anxious, they're more worried, they're more like, they wake up in the morning, make sure they have their to-do list all organized, they go one step by step, you know what I mean? Whereas people who have less of that, they may be more brave or more courageous, more able to do random things like that, but they're not as able to go this long-term precision kind of thing. But then you bring up a different kind of thing, which is the drive aspect. So you're talking about like people having a laser focus and sacrificing everything else just for that. And that's a different issue. I think you have to be a bit neurotic to be able to accomplish long-term goals, because otherwise you'll just get too relaxed and you let things go. Yeah. But the issue with drive and becoming the best at something in the world, I think it comes from really deep insecurities in childhood that someone just somehow geared directly into their career and just went straight into it. So some people can do this for business, some people may have done it in athletics, but it's something about having to prove something to the world, because at some point you're doing something that isn't in your best interest. Like you're practicing basketball at night, your friends are at a bar, you're giving up something. But the only way you would give that up is because you have this goal that's so important to you that you don't care if you're unhappy. Yeah. The funny thing is that when these people don't care if they're unhappy, they're often some of the happiest people. Like look at Jay Cutler. He's sacrificed so much for his career. The guy's always smiling, always seems happy. Yeah. You see what I mean? But I'm sure he gave up a ton for his dedication.
Oh yeah, and plus, that's a very good example. Yes, but do you think OCD at the end of the day is beneficial to somebody that needs to get to the end result like that, like a Kobe Bryant? Like, do you think that's going to help them?
No. The actual OCD is a pathological condition in which you're basically too neurotic for your own good. Right. But some level of neuroticism is necessary. Like, you're not going to come across someone who's very relaxed, who then just does for example, does a bachelor's, master's, and then a PhD, and then go. That's not. If you're very relaxed, you're eventually going to stop in like these very difficult things. You have to be neurotic in some kind of way.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
Yeah, I definitely think so, for sure. I mean, it's hard to say, like, is it OCD or is it if the person is just, I don't know. I always have like big arguments about this OCD thing. I hate how people are just people throw that term around so easily now. Like, oh, I'm OCD.
They mean neurotic. OCD.
That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. They mean neurotic, right? OCD is exactly. Okay. So we're on the same field when it comes to that.
Totally. OCD is like you that's incapacitating. You can't do shit with your day.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I'm so OCD. I'm like, no, that's just being lining up your supplement bottles and your books and like, no, that's
just a little organization.
It drives me nuts though. Everyone's like, always like, I'm OCD. I can't do it. I'm like, no, you're not, dude. Jeez.
I've known one guy who was straight up OCD, and that you're talking about someone who cannot function. Like the guy.
Yeah, they can't function. Yeah, exactly.
Like freaking out. So someone was asking, do you think, Nick, that the Mike Mentzer method of HIT stuff works for all bodybuilders, or do you think some actually need volume?
Ooh. So when I do my Q&As on my Instagram, I get a lot of questions about what's the best training method. And I think there's a lot of good ways to approach like, let's talk about just bodybuilding. Like, if people want to look like a bodybuilder, be a bodybuilder, there's a lot of different ways to approach it. And what I come to realize, and I've tried every type of training program, I've tried every coach, trainer, guru in this world. And what I come to realize is that at the end of the day, nobody knows what you feel when you're training. So what I mean is, and this sounds really stupid and simple, but just for example, let's talk about back for instance. Like, everyone's like, oh, you have to do dumbbell rows, you have to do barbell rows, you have to do these compound movements to have a big back. Well, what I've realized over my journey is that people like Dexter Jackson, or even like Phil Heath, for example, I can bring Phil into this. They don't depend on barbell rows and dumbbell rows and T-bar rows and deadlifts to have a big back. They focused on what's been working and what they get the proper engagement out of for their back workouts. It's not always like there's no such thing as a mass builder exercise. Like, I hate when people throw those terms around when it comes to bodybuilding, because you can build a big back on machines and cable pull downs and cable rows and things of that nature. You don't have to do these crazy exercises to build a crazy back. So when it comes to the training, I feel the same way. Like, you don't have to do push-pull legs. You don't have to do one body part a week. You don't have to train everything twice a day or twice a week or whatever you want to do. I literally feel like you have to eventually build up the perfect training program for what you feel is best for your physique. And this is not going to happen in 6 months or a year. Like, this happens over time as you build more muscle, as you evolve with your physique. And I think, obviously, just like anything else, your training program is going to change as your body progresses. So as you have more muscle, as you get bigger, certain movements aren't always going to feel the same way as they did when you were smaller or less muscular. So you have to just kind of fine tune things as they go and not overthink it so much. I always tell people, start out with a base plan, whether it's just like training Monday through Friday, a 5-day split, 7-day split, and just adjust accordingly. Take notes, keep track of what you're doing so you can always go back and have a log of what you've been doing. But I'm not talking about reps and weight. I'm talking about what you trained that week and how you trained it. So then, therefore, going forward, you're going to have notes that say, oh, this didn't feel good. This did feel good. This did work. This did not work. I put 2 pounds of muscle on doing this. I put 0 putting this. So I think literally it's just a process of elimination. And eventually you get to the point when you're so you're at peak performance where you're like, I only have to train my legs twice a month and they look like this, or I know if I do this movement, this is what I'm going to get out of it. And that's how I was at the end of my career after a long time. But I literally figured that out within 3-year period. Once I started doing that and stopped listening to gurus or Joe Schmo's training method. And I just think there's no cookie cutter way to train. You got to really just fine tune it. Just like in nutrition, just like anything else we do with bodybuilding, it's got to be fine tuned for what you feel and don't feel. Because I hated when I used to go, for instance, everyone's like, you have to go train with Charles Glass. So I go out to LA, I'm out there, I'm like, fuck it, let me hire Charles, maybe go train with him for a month and see what I get out of it. Granted, yes, I'm not going to sound like obnoxious and sit here, I didn't learn anything from him, but a lot of the movements were catered to somebody that was more genetically superior to me, like a Dexter or somebody I was training with, or Hidetada Mamagishi, or whoever was there at the time, Rodin. I would train next to these guys and I'm like, I don't feel it. Like I literally just be like, I don't feel the engagement that they do, you know, maybe because they were too muscular. Maybe they were just at another level than I was. I couldn't feel that movement yet, or muscle mind connection, whatever. But a lot of the things he was doing were very ordinary. But for me, for my back, okay, at that time, I had to do things that were out of the box and not your common deadlift or your bent over row. So did I learn from him? Of course, but there's a lot of things I realized that don't work for me, because I saw my physique digress in some areas and in some areas progress. So I was like, okay, let me just take what I worked from him and apply it to what I'm doing already. And that's just kind of how I was after that. After I learned from that experience, when meanwhile he's supposed to be, you know, the cream of the crop and very smart. He's an engineer, all that, but I just realized at that point, like, I can't listen to anybody anymore. I have to just do this myself. It's going to take time, and you eventually fine tune it. It takes a while though. Like, no one just has patience to do it though. That's the thing, or has the patience to literally pay attention to what they're doing. Like, guys just go train. I ask them sometimes, my clients, I'm like, so how was your workout? They're like, good. I'm like, what'd you do? They're like, I'm like, you just did it like 3 hours ago. How did you? I think I did 3 sets. They're not even thinking about what they're doing. That's the thing. They're just.
Before I would go to sleep the day before, I would be visualizing whatever.
Thank you. And
I would have pressure, like, fuck, if I don't hit that weight.
Yes. It was so instilled in my mind what I was doing that day. Like, before I did it, like you said, before bed, I'm like, tomorrow I'm going to hit fucking this. I'm going to hit that. I'm going to do this. And like, when I go to the gym, I would do it. And I'm like, yes.
Sometimes you would hype yourself. I don't know if this happened to you, but I would hype myself up so much that some days I would get anxious before going to the gym.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I would get the shits before the gym because I would get so excited. You know, like the nervous poop. You're like, oh, I get this before I go to the gym because I'm not crapping at the bathroom at the gym. It's disgusting. So I gotta get this out. I'd be like out the door, but like, I gotta turn around. I go back inside, you know, because I would get so excited to go work out. And I don't think kids have that anymore. People that are coming up, they don't realize how like scientific and particular this is for each person to figure out what works for you. Everyone just wants to like read something and do it and think that's going to work. It's not like that.
Let's discuss this like scientifically. So if we think that one exercise will engage a muscle equally between people, we could automatically know this isn't true, because your neural connections between your brain and your muscles cannot possibly be the exact same as someone else. It's not. They're too intricate. Right. They're too different. So that's why one guy can feel something on one movement and not on another, because his neural connections may be physically placed differently.
Right.
But the thing I wanted to mention is this: like, I come from the strength background, and so for me, seeing the HIT program where a bodybuilder basically goes in and maxes out on every exercise, whether it's a compound or like a isolation curl, or with Dante, they go past failure on every single exercise. For me, coming from a strength background, this is really confusing, because I would be like, okay, wait, if your goal as a bodybuilder is to if you're telling me, okay, volume doesn't work because my muscle depends on how strong I am. So I don't want to do volume because I want to be strong. Okay, if you want to be strong, then why the hell are you maxing out on every exercise? Because what you're doing is two things. Number one, you're putting yourself in nervous system fatigue. Number two, you're actually causing damage into those muscles that's not going to heal over a few weeks. And eventually you're going to get damage like Dorian Yates. And
regardless of what you're on.
So regardless, growth hormone is not going to protect you or anything. So if you look at a powerlifter, they have programs that pyramid. The volume changes. Yeah. They max out on certain exercises, certain weeks. Other ones, they take a break. They do this. It's called programming. And the point of that is so that you give your nervous system a break, give your muscles a break, so that at the end of a 10-week period or 8-week period, you're actually stronger than when you started. But if you maxed out on every single exercise those whole weeks, I bet you wouldn't even be stronger. At least if you're an expert. If you're like strong already, you're not going to get stronger by maxing on every exercise. You can't.
It drives me utterly insane when people tell, like Jordan Peters, for example. You know who Jordan Peters is, right? Like that's the
kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's
every exercise. So, dude, you can't be that strong because powerlifters can't do that. So how are you able to do that?
And then like
on everything.
I'm like, that's not. You basically explained it. It just frustrates me like beyond belief that guys actually think bodybuilding is that. And I was like, out of all the people I've ever learned from, not one person coming up during my career told me to lift like that. So how is it that this last couple of years, all of a sudden we're worried about training, the complete opposite of what I've learned from Chris Cormier, Charles Glass, Kevin Lervoni, like you name Chad Nichols, like everybody that preaches bodybuilding does not preach that. They preach the polar opposite of that. So we didn't discover something just recently. I promise you that, because bodybuilders always look good prior to that. And I literally think that's why so many guys are burnt out. They're getting hurt. The receptors are shot. Their bodies are shot. They get unmotivated. Like there's so many things that point to that, because like you said, the central nervous system is not repairing itself in 24 hours to go train again and do that again to yourself.
Oh, by the way,
no way.
If you do that, you'll actually cause yourself anxiety and depression just because of the nervous system fatigue.
Oh yeah. Totally. Severe.
And by the way, just for you guys to know, I've tried this. So I've maxed out on everything. I've done dog crap. I went through this, not from like reading or anything like that.
No, it does not work
for long, and you'll get injured. And so someone asked you, Nick, Judson Oliver asked, where do you think bodybuilding will be in 10 years? Has it seen its days? And this is a pretty interesting question, because how could you predict how these other classes will change the whole sport and Instagram and
I mean, obviously, I don't believe it's going anywhere. So let's say that, because some people are like, oh, bodybuilding is going to disappear. I'm like, no, that's not. Bodybuilding always, I think, will be there. Will it be as marketed as strong from like from a business standpoint? I don't know, because it really depends on the growth of these other classes. And at the end of the day, Jim Mannion, Tyler Mannion, whoever you want to talk about at the top of the pendulum here, it's a business for them. So if they see the sway of competitors going towards classic or physique or whatever, and they see that from an amateur level up, I'm not talking about the pros, I'm talking about the amateur level from the local shows, that the progression is going to somewhere else, they kind of have to go with that direction. They can't go against the grain and say, oh, we're just going to stand by this and watch our business fail, because, that's not going to work either. So I think a lot of people forget that this is a business. It's a sport, but it's not really. It's more of a business, So whatever's promoting their local shows, what's getting the entry fees, what's getting people excited to come to the show, what's drawing more fans, that's what they have to pay attention to. They don't give a shit if bodybuilding's been there forever. It doesn't mean anything. Look at what happened to women's bodybuilding. It literally faded off the face of the earth, and now they're trying to bring it back again, which I think is a bad idea. But because there's just too many divisions for women.
Why does it matter if they bring it back? Because physique is bodybuilding.
That's what I mean. There's too much gray area between all the physiques.
Can you explain to me what? Okay, this is a little off topic, but what the hell is bikini? I don't understand. What are you supposed to look like?
Because now they're jacked. Because now they're jacked.
Yeah, they're a little jacked too.
Yes, they're definitely jacked.
Girls are a little jacked.
They look like Figure used to be.
Yes, that's very true.
Like Figure used to be bikini.
So there's bikini, figure, wellness, fitness, and physique and bodybuilding. 6 divisions. There's 6 of them. So will there be physique?
I didn't know there were 6 body types. Did you? I didn't know there were 6 different. That's some crazy shit when you think about it, right? I get bodybuilding and I get physique. Classic is even like, it's kind of weird. I really don't agree with it totally. I get the weight cap thing, but just put weight caps on bodybuilding then if you want to control them.
Yeah, true. And plus,
they already had the 212. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
That's
it doesn't make sense.
But there's also an important point, which is the most classic bodybuilder is not the classic physique IFBB Pro.
No.
Who is that guy? I forgot his name. Chris Aceto's guy. Chris Aceto's guy should be classic physique, Mr. Olympia. Everyone knows.
I fucking forgot his name now.
I'm bad with names, but like
I'm very bad with names. Yes, I know exactly. 100% should be Mr. Olympia.
Not even relevant.
100%.
It's like, yeah. So, but the girls division. So you're saying this year they're gonna have bodybuilding and physique, both.
I have all of them.
Are you serious? They're gonna have both bodybuilding and physique?
Yeah.
So how does the lady decide if she wants to go to physique or bodybuilding?
Because listen, these physique girls, first of all,
physique girls I am currently. So.
They're fucking jacked, okay? And they're not holding back now. Like the physique girls used to be a little softer. Like Dana Lynn Bailey. Remember Dana Lynn Bailey? When she won the first Miss Physique Olympia, that's like bikini now.
Yeah.
Like she looked like she had no separation in her legs, really. She was very soft, but like separated, you know, like wasn't hard and grainy, striated, like fucking peeled out of her mind. Now, if you look at the transition from her to now, like Shanique, are you fucking kidding me? Shanique is huge.
So is Shanique going to bodybuilding or physique? That's the question.
I mean, she hasn't said anything.
Oh,
I mean,
so we don't even know who's going to be in bodybuilding and who's going to be in.
Well, I heard like Iris Kyle's coming back and shit, which is weird.
That. Yeah, that's quite a while.
It's a long layoff, but I don't know, like because like to me, like you're talking about muscularity. You're not talking about the big as the person is. That doesn't mean anything because their statue could change on their height and weight. So I'm looking at a muscularity level and a conditioning level, and that's physique. That's bodybuilding. That to me, that's what bodybuilding is to classic. Like now the guys are just shredded and jacked at the exact weight. They're just getting bigger and bigger at that weight, you know? Eventually it's going to evolve into like a bodybuilder because now they're rewarding guys that are striated and fucking all crazy. And that's just bodybuilding with different trunks.
You know what they could have had? I mean, I don't know if this is a good idea, but they could have had like within the normal open class, they could have had a, like, you know how there's the fan favorite? They could have had a classic Mr. Olympia.
Well, what happened? What's wrong with doing weight divisions like they do for amateur? Why does it go from weight divisions to no weight divisions?
That's an even better point. That's a way better way to do it.
I just have less divisions. Just have like maybe 4 or something or whatever. And then they battle for the overall like they do in the amateur. And why don't they do that for the Olympia? Right. Like they have like 4 weight divisions. Like, you know what I'm saying? A super, like kind of like UFC has like, but less, but like a super, like over 225 or over 250, and then a heavyweight, then a light heavy, and then like a middleweight.
Much better. That would be so.
And then they battle for the overall for the Mr. Olympia. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why they have.
You could have an overall that might be even smaller sometimes because. Yeah,
because then it could be anybody.
He's not being outsized by everyone near him.
Right. Like, I don't know why they have a 212 and then they have an open. Like, just, like, because anyone at 212 can get 215 can be with somebody at 270. Like, are you kidding me?
The thing that you haven't answered, Nick, I genuinely don't understand. Figure and bikini, what are they supposed to be like exactly? I'm not making fun of them. I just don't understand.
Well, now, I don't know.
Originally, bikini was supposed to be like a swimsuit model, right?
Yeah, but now they're tapered. So, like, they weren't supposed to be – bikini wasn't supposed to be tapered. Like, they weren't judging their backs. Because bikini was never judged on a muscularity level. It was just judged on genetic. Like, so they're supposed to have, like, hourglass shape, but not really because they don't have asses anyway. But they're supposed to have, like, a nice waist, shoulder to waist ratio, because that's why they do that front pose, like, all weird, like, fucking twisted and shit, like they're like an alien. And they weren't supposed to be, like, conditioned or have glute and ham tie-ins. And now they all have glute ham tie-ins. They all have muscular backs. They have huge delts. They have veiny arms and shit. Like, they're jacked. And figure was judged on symmetry. So, like, figure girls would show their symmetry. They do the front relaxed, quarter turns, rear lat spread, quarter turn to the back. They do a rear lat spread. It was judged on symmetry and muscularity and conditioning. But now bikini, they're judging like everything because now the girls are pulling their hair out and they're showing their back muscles when they're doing the bikini pose, like bent over. So, like, and they all have glutes and hams tie-ins and everything. So, like, I really don't know what the difference is because most of these girls can transition to one or the other and they wouldn't even know the difference. Like, they both lats and shit. It's fucking crazy.
That's true. Hey, what do you think about this observation? So Arnold segued from bodybuilding to movies to politics. And then, I think that guy who played the Hulk tried to do something similar, but didn't really succeed as much.
Ferrigno.
Since then, the guys that go into action movies have mostly been wrestlers, like The Rock. And now they're trying to get Batista to be
Batista's coming along.
He's the worst.
Worst actor ever.
Oh, my God. I can't even. Every time I see a movie with him, I'm like,
cringe.
He can't talk. He's not.
He was cringy as a basketball player. He was cringy as a wrestler too, though.
I know. Yeah, he's
like the whole acting was like, oh, you're not selling me on that, dude. There's no way. Listen, I like The Rock in some movies, but some of his movies are very cringy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, he's not a good actor.
No,
like
no,
he hits some roles, like some of he's good at, because maybe it's like more natural to him, like the cokehead he played in that one movie he was really good at. I don't know if he does coke, but I'm just saying, but like he was really good in that movie. The one with Mark Wahlberg, I forget the name of that movie.
Yeah, he was good there. He was good in Get Shorty or Get Short or something.
The Fast and Furious, cheese ball.
Yeah.
Tooth Fairy, cheese ball.
Tooth Fairy was really bad. Yeah.
Like there's some Jumanji, terrible. Like, I mean, like some really bad movies. And I'm like, how does he keep getting these roles?
The way I analyze it is that he's similar to Arnold. Like he was really hardworking. He really tried to set up his Hollywood career. And at some point, these Hollywood guys need someone muscular to play a role.
I know. Do you think he's just given these roles?
Yeah, I think you do well one. I mean, how the hell does Batista have them? Batista didn't even do well once. But my question is this is what I'm trying to get to, is that like Kai was supposed to be having a career in Hollywood, and I don't know what's going on with that. They keep saying he has one, but I've never seen it. But what I was trying to say is, how come you think none of the bodybuilders has been successful in segueing into because I mean, if you're going to choose an action star, you want a guy who's very muscular, not like these wrestlers. But I guess
I think personality is probably the biggest holdback with a lot of these guys.
Do you know if any of them try?
Yeah, a lot of them try.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot.
I know Kevin Levrone was trying to do that for a while.
I know a lot of the ones that try that aren't like popular bodybuilders, but they're pro bodybuilders, and they try. They go to every fucking tryout, dude. I mean, like every single one, but they don't get shit, which is crazy because I don't know who's getting the roles that they're supposedly casting for. That if they're not getting it, because they look like the bodybuilder. So I'm like, who the fuck is getting it then? You know what I mean? And they don't know either because they don't see who wins it who gets it most of the time. So Brad Rose still does a lot, but like Brad only gets like, his problem is he's too short. I mean, no offense. He's just not like a tall, statued bodybuilder.
He's very connected with those people, though. Huh?
Yeah, he's been in that scene for a long time. So, like Kai, like do you, I'm not bashing Kai, but like, do you see the thing he's doing with that weird show?
No, I don't know.
Where he's dressing up as a girl?
No, I didn't. He's dressing up. It's very popular to dress up as a girl these days, though. You have to, everybody likes to dress up as a girl. I went to Walmart, not Walmart. I went to Target the other day, 2 days ago. Half of the men were dressed up as girls. I don't really know what's going on. People love to do that.
That's fucking California.
Yeah, California.
He made some like comedy show on YouTube.
Oh, it's a comedy thing?
It's fucking weird, dude. I'll send you the link to it. It's fucking strange. I don't. He's got like high heels on and everything, dude. Like he's in it.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's committed.
I wasn't totally joking. Like it seems like when an actor dresses,
wasn't totally joking.
Yeah, when an actor dresses up as a woman in TV shows or movies now, they get a lot of acclaim. It's a way to get the I don't know, like these kind of the LGBT community to support you.
Yeah.
So that could be it. But the thing that always got me with Kai, which I know this is just stupid, and I'm not a hairdresser, but this thing at the back of his head that
it's all fake.
Well, obviously that's my point. It's the thing.
No, but people think that's his hair.
No, dude, a horse doesn't have a tail like that. The thing is,
but you know how many people always say, "Is that his hair?" and they think it's his hair. I'm like, are you? What do you think? He has one thing. That's what I'm saying. He has like one thing of hair on the back of his head like that. Like, are you crazy?
He's got more hair than my whole wife's head. There's no, you can't be bald and then have a spot like that with that thick hair.
But even like back in the day when I used to do the videos with him, people were like, "Holy shit, Kai's got so much hair. How come you're going bald?" And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Then I'm about to put a fucking a do-rag and a wig on then with corn rolls and shit. Like, are you kidding me? People used to think that's his hair."
Whenever I see him pose and he like throws it around, I'm like, I wonder how dirty that thing is. Because that's not his hair. It's something that's just been sitting around. He carries it around.
Rolling around the floor and shit.
Like. It's so long. He sits on it and stuff. I'm like, what is this thing? All right, one last question.
So weird. It's so weird, though.
One last. We have to ask another one from NPH Fit because she's the one who got annoyed last week. So she said, I've heard before that Tom Platz recommended not eating a meal until an hour and a half or 2 hours after training. Reasoning being the body is still in a sympathetic nervous state, and eating right afterwards, the body isn't ready to digest and absorb the nutrients, leading to things like leaky gut, potentially causing food intolerances, food allergies. Any validity thoughts? Okay, I have no idea. So
I was gonna say I can't talk scientific. I can talk bodybuilding terms, but
yeah, you first of all talk bodybuilding terms, and then I'll explain why I don't know.
I mean, just the simplest way of looking at it is.
Noticed? Yeah, when you eat right after and when you don't eat right after, have you seen differences in your body also?
Well, for me, when I was bodybuilding, let's talk about blood sugar. So like for me, when I was in my zone bodybuilding, my blood sugar would always be a little wacky when I was that heavy and I had that much muscle on me and I'm eating such a high carb diet all day. Like I had to put something in me after I trained because I was so depleted, right? Especially glycogen and blood sugar and all that. So I would immediately get like a Gatorade in and just some protein, like very light, something light and fast and digest easily. I would never be able to eat because honestly, after I trained, as much as I needed nutrients in me, I had no appetite for like 2 hours after and probably because of my central nervous system, because I was so fried and taxed from training. I didn't have the hunger the hunger pains. So I usually waited. I didn't rush to eat. Honestly, I would get that replenishment in right away after I got done training. I would just down it as fast as I could, as quick as possible. And then I would just wait till I was hungry and eat again. I would never like force feed myself food down because number one, I would never finish it. And number two, I'm not into torturing myself. So I would just wait until I felt like I was getting hungry and eventually it would come around like hour and a half, 2 hours. Okay. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to eat something now. And then my blood sugar was stable. I got enough protein in to repair my breaking down muscles, what everyone thinks there is, that insulin window, which I think is crazy. But I didn't force it. And I think a lot of guys just try to force all this food down at all different times. And I think you got to listen to your digestive system and listen to how you feel too. So
I think that's golden advice. Forcing food can cause so many different issues.
So many issues.
But I'll just go one by one. So first of all, the sympathetic nervous drive. I think that's totally reasonable. So there's two kinds of nervous drives in the body. One is called parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is also called the feed and breed nervous system. The other one is the sympathetic nervous system. That's the fight or flight one. Feed and breed is supposed to be a more relaxed one. Your digestive system should be working better than in the fight or flight one. So that does make sense. And the other thing she mentioned about leaky gut. So leaky gut is... I
didn't hear that part. Shit.
Yeah, leaky gut is a term that people use, I think, a little too often.
Yeah.
Leaky gut is not usually what they're experiencing, but what leaky gut means is basically this. Your intestines, like if your intestines like this, on the inside layer, there's a mucus layer, a mucosal layer. You have bacteria living in there. If you're not feeding this bacteria, or if you have some kind of like pathologic bacteria, they may try to eat the actual intestine. They'll try to get through the mucosal membrane. Usually they can't unless you have a problem with your mucosal membrane. Maybe you have Crohn's disease. At that point, they'll start biting into the intestinal layer, and usually the bacteria will not actually leak out, but your body will recognize that you're being attacked, and so your body will send inflammatory cytokines to prevent the bacteria from getting out. And that's how you develop colitis or Crohn's disease or stuff like that.
Right.
I don't think that this is necessarily a big risk if you're eating right after workouts, but the only thing I wanted to say, which is not scientific, which I experienced personally, which is whenever I didn't eat after a workout for an hour and a half or so, I would gain much less fat during those like months.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point.
I would stay tighter, and I never thought it affected my gains too much.
No, I mean, listen, I think if people computed how much let's say you train in the late afternoon or nighttime, people are so worried about like being catabolic, like that term is loosely used too. I'm like, you consumed enough protein and carbs and fats already. Like now you're training at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, let's just say, like to be not catabolic already, like that next hour after you work out is not going to change anything. So I always tell people, just take your time, and there's no rush to shove food down your throat. Like my friends would literally like, oh, I got to get my shake in, and like they're mixing like such a meathead thing. It would drive me nuts. And I'm like, dude, calm down. Like, you're not eating yet? I'm like, no.
I know.
I'll eat when I fucking get hungry. I'm not ready to eat anything. They're like, oh, you're not going to grow. I'm like, okay. That's why I'm 300 and you're fucking 220. Like,
so let me give the science behind your perspective to just, so you're taking, so not you, but say people are taking androgens, they're eating protein all day, they're taking human growth hormone, they're weightlifting. All of these things signal to your body anabolic, grow, don't be catabolic. There's no reason for you to go backwards because you have all these nutrients and all these things signaling growth. If you don't eat for 4 hours, you're actually not going to, I mean, maybe you'll get less calories in your day.
God,
you're not going to lose your growth pathway because it's turned on all day, unless you're like a natural guy that doesn't eat much.
Right.
Then for that guy, he needs to eat right after his workout. I don't know, but definitely not for other people.
Yeah, I think bodybuilders think so with such tunnel vision with things, like they don't think the whole picture. Because what I come to realize, they forget like the other last 7 years or wherever they've been bodybuilding for that they haven't been eating or something. And they think like that hour or whatever is going to change their entire muscle development because they didn't get a shaken in time, or the guy that's like, oh, I got to eat every 2 hours or I'm going to shrink or not grow. I'm like, dude, like fuck it. They literally give themselves their own anxiety and drive themselves crazy. And they're like, I can't handle bodybuilding. It's too hard. And I'm like, you're making it hard. Like wake up and eat. And a couple hours later, when you're hungry again, just eat again and do that multiple times a day and you're fine. And if you go to bed and you go to sleep, don't worry about getting up and eating. Just go to bed. Like people are like, oh, I have to get my 17 meals in or I'm not going to grow. I'm like, just eat when you
wake up from bed. It's going to hurt your gains. It's not.
Yeah, it's going to kill your gains.
Calories.
Like if your body's telling you, signaling, go to bed, go to fucking bed because you're tired. You need the recovery. Like don't sit there and be like, I'm going to wait till my last meal so I can eat so I can go to bed. Like, it's just like there's so much stupidity and bad information when it comes to bodybuilding, and it's like it just drives me nuts, and that's why like I can't like be a full-time coach anymore. I lose my mind with these people.
Here are the lessons we got on our show. Before we learned that people don't want to live, people want to. Now we know people want to make things difficult for themselves.
Yes,
or complicate them. These are the lessons from Nick and Leo's channel. Okay, so next we'll continue.
Yes,
I have to update you on something also after. I'll text you.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Have a good week.